on our group and put on the at least the YouTube link and just say we're starting. Because I feel like I've been plugging this WhatsApp group and we haven't really been doing it well. So we're going to put on our WhatsApp group. For any of you that hasn't yet joined our WhatsApp group, in the top left-hand corner, we have a link. All right. It's class starting now. I'm going to put, and then you'll put the link, and we'll link everybody up. Hopefully, we'll invite people to join our class. Shmuel, you're joining us today? Good. All right. Now, yesterday, we began trying to figure out whether the Gemara that says Samuch L'Mincha, is it talking about Mincha Ketana or Mincha Gedoyla? What's the answer?
We don't know.
Oh, we don't know yet. Excellent, perfect answer. We don't know yet. We haven't yet determined that. And the Gemara is going to try to analyze the situation to see if perhaps we can figure out whether the Gemara was talking about Mincha Gedoyla or Mincha Ketana. Okay? Now, in order to try to figure that out, we said, well, what would be the reasons for prohibiting from the time of Mincha Ketana versus Mincha Gedoyla? And we said, if it was from the time of Mincha Gedoyla, that the only relevant reason would be in order to prevent people from neglecting their duty of bringing the paschal sacrifice, right? What's so funny? You're laughing at me. Did I say something funny? Huh? You know, one of my friends once told me, if you want to be a stand-up comedian, all you got to do is stand up, everybody will laugh. Sometimes when I see somebody, I'm saying something that I don't know, I didn't think is funny, and everybody starts, I see a smirk, I'm like, uh-oh. What did I do? Anyways. It's funny, right? Okay. Okay. So if it was Mincha Gedoyla, which, as I told you, would be in today's time 12:30 in the new day, that would be Mincha Gedoyla. If that was the prohibition, it would be because we were afraid people would neglect their paschal duty and not bring the paschal sacrifice. Right? Huh? Today is 12:23? Okay, but that's.
No, I'm saying very close. Yeah.
Oh, you're saying today it's close to the average. Again, I'm saying if on average, by the way, Tzfas is always going to be off. In this place that we are right now, it'll always be off a little bit. Why? Because the way they set up the clock is that in one place, they set it up that 12 is noon and 12 is midnight. However, because the time zones are not progressively moving, meaning the time zones work by 1 hour. As a matter of fact, there's one place that I know that works by half an hour. It's very rare. I think it's the only place in the world. There's a place in India that's a half an hour, like when by us when it's 12:30, by them it's 12.
Where?
It's somewhere in India. There's a time zone that has a half that went on a half an hour. I don't know which time zone it is, but there is a time zone like that. Yeah. However, normally time zones go by an hour. So if in one place it is 12, noon is 12, and then there's another place that is on the border of that time zone, it could be up to 11, maybe. It could be an hour off, right? Because each time zone is, the actual time is, is progressive throughout every single inch, every single meter is really another time zone by a fraction of something, right? A small fraction of a difference. And therefore, when they make one area a time zone, well, then from one end of the time zone to the other end of the time zone, it could be a big difference in the actual time of day relative to the sun. Does that make sense? Good. Can I know how to? We learned a little bit of, was that astronomy? Where? India, right? I told you. New Delhi time zone. I remember because I had clients. I did for a while. I did spiritual coaching, spiritual life coaching. I did this for a while Then the yeshiva schlepped me up, and it took so much of my time, I stopped focusing on that business. But I had some very, very interesting clients from all over the world. I had in India, I had in Pakistan, I had Muslims, Christians, Jews, atheists, the world. Of half zones? I never knew. Darwin is half, meaning it's half an hour? Huh?
And also in South Australia.
South Australia is on the half an hour? It's very interesting. Usually they try to jump an hour at a time. So again, so if it's 3 o'clock here, it might be 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, right? What are you talking about? I never heard. I lived in New Zealand. I never heard of any place. Huh? Chatham Islands?
You know what that is?
Nope.
That's why it's probably a tiny place that they're like, let's go 45 minutes.
It's probably It's probably in the middle of this in the middle of the sea somewhere. Chatham Islands. I mean, New Zealand generally has two big islands: the South Island and the North Island, and it has a small island on the at the bottom of the South Island. There's a small island called Stewart Island, and then there are a few scattered islands within New Zealand. But then I think there's a few islands that are like deep into the Pacific that, for whatever reason, are with New Zealand. You probably even need a plane to get there. You probably can't even get there by a boat.
North Korea, Afghanistan, and Iran, all that.
They have half hours?
They have half hours.
Man, that's complicated.
So weird.
No. What could you do? Thanks for sharing us. We had a little bit of a time zone lesson over here. Baruch Hashem. Anyways, back to what we're saying. Okay? We are basically... We basically said as follows. If the time zone, let's go back to what we're saying. If the prohibition for eating on the day before Pesach begins at 12:30, the only reason relevant would be to prevent people from neglecting their duty to bring the Paschal sacrifice. If it was really in the 9th hour, which is from 3 to 4 would be the 9th hour, right? I think so, right? No, 12 to 1 would be the first hour, 1 to 2 would be the second hour, 2 to 3 would be the third hour, which would mean the 9th hour, yeah. So the 6th hour, yeah. Again, as I mentioned, in the Talmudic era, they told time a little differently, etc. All right. So those are the two reasons, and then we tried to prove one of them by the story with Agrippas. We tried to take the story of Agrippas and prove from his story that, in fact,
when's the biblical time they're not allowed to use?
Hold on. We tried to prove from Agrippas that it had to be mincha ktana, because if it was mincha gedola, it wouldn't make any sense, right? Why would it make any sense? Because Agrippas would eat in the 9th hour, and we're telling you that even Agrippas couldn't eat in the 9th hour. Well, if you couldn't eat from the 6th hour, then why would we need to say even Agrippas? What do you mean even Agrippas? Right? Doesn't make any sense. Now, what was the question?
What's the biblical time for not being able to eat?
So, first of all, I'm going to do what Trump does very often, and it says it's not a fair question. It's not a fair question. It's a nasty question. Why are you asking such a question? The very fact that you asked that question is a statement. You're basically stating that there is a biblical prohibition of eating. Saying when is the big? Who says there is a prohibition of eating? For sure. I can just make up whatever heck I want and say the Bible says it. Yeah, for sure it says it. Where does it say it?
You can't eat chametz on Pesach.
We're not talking about chametz. Huh?
But the whole reason why you said it, but you couldn't eat, because if you would eat.
We're not talking about chametz. This conversation has nothing to do with chametz.
We're talking about
Talking about eating, period. You're not eating anything. Can't eat a banana. That's what it was saying. Why? Huh? Good to be back. He's happy to be back. Again, the discussion is a prohibition not to eat. Not to eat leavened bread. Leavened bread, we said actually biblically would be from the 6th hour up past the 6th hour would be biblically prohibited. But this was a completely different discussion. We discussed in a completely different place. Now we're talking about eating anything. You can't eat a banana. You can't eat an onion. You can't eat nothing. You don't eat anything other than nothing. And by the way, there was a Tosfos a few pages ago that actually says you could actually eat bananas, but you can't eat bread. And we said, well, what kind of bread are we talking about if it's already prohibited? And what was the answer? We're talking about egg matzah. Egg matzah, which you are allowed to eat. It's not chametz. It's not chametz, so therefore you would be allowed to eat it biblically. However, rabbinically, we told you not to eat it because it will fill you up, and you will. Or again, this is the discussion here. Yeah, whether it is because you might neglect to do the Paschal sacrifice, or whether it might be because you will eat too much matzah and then not be hungry. Anyways, the Gemara, we kind of stopped yesterday, smack in the middle of a discussion. Okay, so we basically said that if Agrippas, the whole story of Agrippa comes to teach you something new. Now, it cannot teach you something new if Agrippas was prohibited from eating it all the way back. So now the Gemara says as follows. Soif ma'irabusa. So he says, if you're going to tell me that it is mincha ketana, not mincha gedoyla, soif ma'irabuse de Agrippas. At the end of the day, what is going to be the whole chidush, the whole exceptional teaching of Agrippas? Right? Ho matieles manisura. It is prohibited. Right? Why should he be an exception? Matia is like it came, or it applied, right? The time of Easter came, and therefore he should be prohibited. When's the time of Easter? When is Mincha Ketana in the Talmudic way of counting hours? When's Mincha Ketana? Huh?
6.
He says the 9th, you say the 6th. He says the 7th because he wants to throw in another thing. Throw in.
He's probably right.
6.5 hours is Mincha Gdoila. When's Mincha Ketana? Ketana. When's Mincha Ketana?
9.5 hours.
9.5 hours. Yeah, and halfway through the 9th hour, right?
Huh?
Yeah, halfway through the 9th hour. Now, when did Agrippas eat? Huh? So the Gemara says that the time of prohibition came, but he has a half an hour over here. Why don't we count the half an hour? Huh? How do you know that? Why can he eat? Give him a half an hour. He should eat from the beginning of the 9th hour to halfway through the 9th hour, and that's that. No. Why? The Gemara says clearly the time of Easter came. So the answer is what you said is 100% correct, because that is what the Rashbam says. The Rashbam says that everybody would agree with this prohibition. Everybody would agree. Unlike the Shabbos prohibition, where Rabbi Yossi says that once you start eating in a permitted time, you could continue eating as long as you want. This particular prohibition, you must stop at that time. Meaning at 9:30, you would have to stop. Meaning at a halfway through the 9th hour, you'd have to stop eating, period. No other way about it. Now, it is assumed that if you start a meal at 9 o'clock, you can't finish a meal in half an hour. In those days, the king Agrippas did not eat breakfast like me, right? You just stop your mouth in 10 minutes, you're out. So they used to sit down. They used to set the table. They used to serve, have servants. It was fancy. Right? Some people think in today's modern era we're classier than they were back then. As a matter of fact, we're getting less and less classier. Go look at any building that was built, say, 150, 200 years ago. They built them nice and fancy. They look nice. The exterior, the interior. Today, they just plop a bunch of, especially in Israel. Israel is the ugliest architecture I've ever seen. You walk in the streets of Israel, what do? They pull up a cement truck, they dump a big piece of cement, they carve a little bit of some bedrooms inside of the cement, and that's it. So, right?
It's all feminism ruined everything.
Feminism.
Not on,
I'm just kidding.
What does that have to do with feminism?
not on our street.
Huh? Not on your street. Where's your street?
Romance with them.
Yeah.
They make the houses nice
Yeah? How do you know?
because I live in.
Oh, you live in one of them.
That's a good answer. That's a great answer. That's a good answer.
You're saying the houses are nice in Ramat Razim.
Yeah.
Very good.
And
Yes.
they're making nice ones in North Canara.
Most Merit, they're also making some nice houses. Yeah, I think that, Israel started some of the more modern buildings. They started building with a little bit of color, a little bit of design, instead of just like dumping some cement in cement, and that's that. Anyways, how do we get to what we're saying? Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that King Agrippas, when he ate a meal, it did not just take a half an hour. It took much more than a half an hour. And since he would be starting a meal that wouldn't end by 9.5 hours, he would have a problem because he would have to stop at 9.5 hours, and he probably wouldn't if he started his meal. Therefore, he shouldn't even start his meal, right? So the Gemara is essentially saying that Agrippa, even if the Mishnah is talking about Mincha Ketana, the whole story with Agrippa still doesn't make sense. Like, why? What is this adding? Why are we bringing this quote from Agrippas, King Agrippas, when it is irrelevant to our conversation? Right? So the Gemara answers it as follows. Mahu de Tema. You might over have the big fat keyword, Mahu de Tema. Mahu de Tema, you might have said or you might have thought. Teisa shois la Agrippas ke aber shois didan domi. You might think Mao de Tema is a very important keyword. Listen carefully. If you came to my class just to learn Mao de Tema, it's worth it. Mao de Tema, everybody say it together. Mao de Tema. Mao de Tema literally means you may have said. In other words, you may have thought or you may have erroneously concluded. That's really what it's trying to say. Mao de Tema is a keyword. It literally means you might have said, which is really trying to say you might have erroneously concluded. Huh? It's actually very similar to the actual meaning. The Salka Daitach is it would pop into your mind. Mao de Tema is, I think it's pretty similar. It's a good question. Why sometimes we use Salka Daitach and sometimes we use Mao de Tema? It's a good question. I have to really think about it to see if I can actually tell a clear difference. Yeah. Somebody asked over here, is Agrippa Street in Jerusalem named after the king Agrippas? It's a good question. There is Agrippa Street in Jerusalem. Maybe it is. I mean, he was a character in Jewish history in the Second Temple period, and he's mentioned here in the Talmud, and he's mentioned in other places. So it could very well be that when they made Israel, especially in Jerusalem, they tried to pick figures of Jewish history, and it could be they chose King Agrippas. Could be. I don't know. You have to ask the people that organized it, but it's very possible. Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. King Agrippas. There's various stories about it. I'm not gonna get it, but get too much into it. But Tosfos actually brings this up. He says Rashbam says that he was a kosher king, which means he was actually a good king from the children of the Chashmonoim, which means he was part of the Maccabee dynasty, right? That's what Tosfos says in the name of Rashbam. And he says, Veloy dak, he says he did not pay attention, which means he said it's not true. When they read the Torah in front of him, and it said that the Jewish people should only appoint the king from his brothers, he would cry. Why would he cry? Seemingly the story over there is that his dad was in fact Jewish, but his mom was not. And if his mom was not Jewish, that means he wasn't really part of the nation of Israel, and therefore he wasn't really one of our brothers, even though he was the leader, and even though he had respect for the Torah scholars, and he cried when the Torah said that he really wasn't meant to be king, because obviously he cared about what the Torah said, right? But of course, he didn't relinquish his the throne either. So, huh? Yeah, but even if he converted, it's not it's not good. A convert's not meant to be a king. Again, a convert is meant to be accepted as an equal within the community, but he's not allowed to be a king. No, sorry. What's that? Because that's what the Torah says. Torah says basically it has to be a naturally born Jew to become a king of Israel, official biblically how should I say it, authorized king of Israel. Again, anybody, if you want to look up the story, it is in Masechet Sota, Daf Mem Aleph Amud Aleph. You're welcome to have a look over there and see the details of who he was. Right? Good. Anyways, let's continue. So that's that. Oh, and so you may have thought, here, we kind of got distracted. The question was, why did the story of Agrippas end up in our scenario, trying to prove to you that it is mincha ketana? Obviously, if it is mincha ketana, right, then Agrippas would be prohibited from eating in that time. Why would he be an exception? Why would you think that Agrippas the king is an exception to this rule? So the Gemara says, but perhaps, first of all, perhaps he actually converted, could be. And even if he didn't convert, he was still trying to follow the Torah, right? Good question. Good question. Anyways, where are we? I got confused because anyways, let's go back. Good. So the Gemara says you may have thought that the 9th hour of Agrippas is like the 4th hour of everyone else, and Kamash Malon comes to teach you, which is another key word that we're going to explain in a second. Okay, you may have erroneously thought that the whole concept of the prohibition not to eat food Pesach afternoon is in order to eat matzah on an empty stomach, and therefore, since you as an individual usually ate in the 4th hour, right, earlier in the day, right, therefore we prohibited you from eating in the afternoon, because if you ate in the afternoon, you wouldn't be prepared to eat again at night. However, you may have thought that Agrippas would be an exception to this rule because Agrippas normally ate in the 9th hour, which is halfway in the afternoon. That was his breakfast. And since that was his normal time of breakfast, you might have said that he could eat in that time because he would be able to eat then and eat at night. Kamash Malon comes to teach you, which is another key word. It means this comes to teach you. Right? Now, what does it mean this comes to teach you? The Gemara is expecting you to plug in the details. Now, as I've said, especially for some of you guys that are more new in Talmudic study, in English literature, we always spell everything out to you. Comes to teach you X, Y, Z. Here it just says comes to teach you, and expecting you to know based on the conversation what it's coming to teach you. In other words, the Mishnah is coming to teach you that there is no exception to the rule, which means once the rabbis made a rule that you cannot eat from mincha ketana, even if you're Agrippas that normally eats at that time, and you therefore are used to eating in that time plus eating again at night, so you would think I would have an empty stomach because that's the way my stomach is used to doing things. You might think that Agrippas would be an exception to the rule. Comes the Gemara and says, no, it's not going to be an exception to the rule. They made one rule fits all, one size fits all. That's it. Done, kaputt, sei gesund, bezel. Yeah? Can I know? Good. Where are we? Good. We've just got to the 2 dots, or not to the 2 dots. In my Gemara, it's 1 dot. In some Gemaras, there's no dots. But I want to tell you, we're going to start a new concept right now, and I want to finish it because it's Wednesday, and I like finishing on Wednesday. But Wednesday is my last chance really to finish the quota, because after Wednesday, Thursday already, I like testing people on the quota. All right? Now, Omar Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yosi says as follows. Avo matpilhu b'mini targimo. However, you could dip in various different type of tasty things. In other words, you could eat food as long as it is not an essential food like bread, as I said prior in the Tosfos. All right, let's see what it says over here. Metabel, where are we? Yeah. Targima says that Rashbam, Targima means paydays. You could eat fruits, ubasar, and meat, beloy lechem, as long as you're eating it without bread. Yeah, bahad the nakat metabel, and this it says to dip. Why does it say to dip? Shekol macholam ayidei tipo, because in those days, whenever you would eat meat without bread or vegetables without bread, you would dip it. Today as well, when you eat vegetables, fruits and vegetables, you usually have something, like a salad dressing, dip it in. Yeah? Does it make sense? You look like I'm talking to the moon over here. Huh?
The moon.
Huh? The moon. Can I know how to? Anyways, yeah, what?
He's saying so as long as you can eat anything that's not bread.
Again, we said that you cannot eat Pesach afternoon. The second Pesach afternoon hits, you're not allowed, the second Mincha Ketana hits in the afternoon prior to Pesach, you're not allowed to eat anything, right? He says that not eating anything is only in reference to bread, but not in reference to any other food you could eat. That's what he says. Rabbi Yitzchak matbil biyarki. Rabbi Yitzchak would commonly dip various type of vegetables and eat vegetables that afternoon. He would not eat bread, but he would eat vegetables. Tanya nami ochi. We also learned in a brayso. Hashamish matbil b'vnei ma'ayin. The shamish could dip in the kishkes. You know what a kishke is? What's a kishke? The intestines. They used to make some type of delicacy out of intestines, and he can dip in the intestines and put it before the guests. In other words, he can feed the guests various different types of meat, etc. And even though there's no proof to this, there is somewhat of a remembrance to this, which means there's a mention to this in the Tanakh. What does it say? It says in Tanakh, in Jeremiah 4:3, it says, Ki koy amar Hashem, ki so says God, the Ish Yehuda, to the man of Judah, the Yerushalayim and Jerusalem, niru lachem nir, va'al tizru'u el keitzim. Basically, I guess scratch scratch like a thing to plant. You used to plant like grooves. Yeah. And he says, do not sow, meaning sow as in plant, the thorns. What does that mean? I don't know. Let's see if the Rashbam says anything. So the Rashbam says that what does it mean there's no proof to this, but there's a remembrance to this? It's talking about the fact that when you eat food, if you're going to eat food that's not bread, it's actually going to make you more hungry, which is even better. So according to this, it's good to eat after that time, as long as you're not eating bread, because by not eating bread, it's going to draw your appetite. It's like it's almost like what do they call an appetizer.
So confirming that no exceptions to not eating is only do with bread.
Again, bread you're not allowed to eat. And by the way, you should know that bread is a tremendous filler. If you want to make people full, give out bread. As a matter of fact, when I was in New Zealand, we used to have on Shabbat, anywhere from 20 to 150 people at our Shabbat table. And unlike some places where you have a Chabad that has like a normal steady crowd, like a campus Chabad, where they know every week they have 200 guests, so they prepare for 200 guests. I had a little bit of a problem because I was dealing with tourist travelers, these Israeli travelers that travel the whole world. And these travelers, they didn't let you know they were coming always. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. I would say about a third of the travelers told us they were coming, and 2/3 didn't tell us, they would just show up, right? So we can be preparing a Shabbat meal for 20 people, and before you know it, we have 100, right? And it was crazy. It was very, very difficult to organize these meals. But one of the things that my sister, who happens to be a co-director of Chabad at Washington University in St. Louis, she gave us a really good a tip, right? If you ever have a lot of guests, or if you're not sure if you have enough food for all your guests, what's the trick? Load everybody up on bread, like make tons of bread and dips. You put bread and dips out, which, by the way, bread and dips could be really, really cheap. Put a lot of bread and dips out, and then you have a little bit of, then whatever you have is good, you know. But at the end of the day, they'll leave, and they will be satisfied. And again, we had enough chicken and soup and for everybody. But if in fact there was too little, but everybody was like full, like we would fill, people would get so full on the bread and the dips, they used to say, no, I don't want soup, right? So instead of having the soup, everybody's soup, we only had the soup, half the people's soup, right? And when it came to chicken, we put out chicken, and only, a lot of people were like, listen, I don't have any room for this, man.
That's what Olive Garden
Right?
does to you too.
What?
They'll just fill you up on breadsticks and salad so you don't order too much expensive pasta sauce.
So you don't eat too much of that.
The Fazoli's too.
Yeah. All right. That's true. Bread does fill you up, right? So again, these rabbis seem to say that even though you're prohibited from eating bread, or not necessarily leavened bread, but even unleavened bread, you're not allowed to eat Pesach, the evening or the afternoon going into the Pesach, in order that you could eat matzah with an empty stomach. You could eat meat, you could eat vegetables, you could eat anything other than bread. Why? Because it actually makes you more hungry, not less hungry, etc. Apparently not. You're arguing with the Talmud. Yeah.
Just me? You ever went to steakhouse?
Yeah.
You order yourself a fat steak?
Yeah, and you walk out and you're like, what's for dinner?
Really?
Yeah, well, unless they served you bread. A lot of times they'll serve you bread and dips as well. There's something about bread or starches that they're the real things that fill you. Everything else is just like, yeah, it's a little extra nutrition, a little extra protein. Huh? He's saying that it fills you up because it expands. He's saying that's what he says. It expands. All right. Good point. Let's go. Yeah. Yeah, somebody said a funny thing. We have our Talmudic Tom, one of our biggest fans over here. I see him all the time on our feed over here. He says Chabad always has a lot of bread but no dough. It's a good one, right? The rabbi's always looking for money. Somehow he's feeding the world. He's feeding the world, and yeah. Huh? Yeah, that's it. Chabad spent all its money on the tunnel, digging the tunnels in 770. All right, let's go.
Expand 778.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so let's read the Rashbam to understand what this particular thing means. Zecher l'davar, there's a remembrance to this in the Tanakh, as I told you, Jeremiah 4:3. It says, scratch or dig and near like a little bit of a field, but do not plant in the thorns. What is this? So Rashbam explains as follows: Hera lonu hanavi. The prophet showed the people of Israel, dugma, an example, that you are plowing the field. You plow the field in order to accept, or in order to absorb the seeds. And if it's not plowed, it will not accept the plant the seeds. Right now, listen, in many places in the world, what do? They spread the seeds and then they plow the field once, right? And then it works. In Israel, by the way, and in some other countries where you have very hard land, By the way, Israel, on one hand, is one of the most fertile farming lands in the world, right? As promised by God. However, like with every blessing comes challenges. There are a lot of challenges in Israel. In Israel, most farmers, they actually plow the field twice. They plow their field once to kind of break it open. Then they spread the seeds on the broken field. And then they plow it a second time so that the seeds get covered over and then they can plant properly. And if they didn't do that, it won't work very well, right? So in the olden days as well, in Israel, they used to plow twice. They used to plow once to break up the soil so that it kind of cracks it up so that it will accept the seeds. And then they plow it a second time to cover it over. So it's basically saying here that if you don't plant seeds before you plow the field, because then you're just going to basically you losing. In other words, don't put your efforts into something that's not properly prepared because it's just going to go down the drain. Yeah. Af Adam, so too a person, somebody that eats something that does not satisfy them, as Adam, it opens up the person's intestines and widens them. The Kabbalah Michael shall Sauda Acharkan Liteoven, and it will with desire and pleasure, etc. So this is the way he explains it. He explains that by eating foods that do not satisfy you, what they do is they're kind of like plowing the field. Now, if you just plow the field and you don't put any seed, you won't get anywhere either, right? So you plow the field, now it opens it up, and the field is kind of waiting to digest and to handle the seeds, right? And he says that when you eat prior to your meal, when you eat things that are not filling, like vegetables and things like this, it opens up your intestines. Your body starts getting ready. It starts digesting things and therefore kind of opens up. And then when you eat, it'll taste even better. And by the way, this perhaps is a Talmudic source for the concept of an appetizer. Many restaurants, they purposely do this, is that when you walk in, the first thing they do, they put down pickles and they put down other appetizing foods because they want you to leave the restaurant saying that food tastes really good. And guess what? It's true. As you see in the Gemara, if you eat appetizers before you eat, you actually enjoy your eating more, right? So the restaurant, yeah, of course, they're going to have a chef try to cook really good food. But between me and you, I always say that, chef cooked food is overrated. Okay, what does it taste that much better because you went to a restaurant? I go to restaurants. I'm going to be honest with you. I go to restaurants more because I want a place to get away from the noise of my kids yelling in my ears. So you have a nice time to go out with my wife. And we try to go once a week. We go to a restaurant. And by the way, very often restaurants in Israel are also noisy, but not as noisy, a different noise, right? So to me, that's what I go for. You think the food tastes better? I can make food that, as far as I'm concerned, tastes just as good as their food, right? No, their food is. But people are convinced that you go to a restaurant where they have fancy food. They're convinced that somehow you're getting better food and it tastes better. Okay, maybe it tastes a little better. It doesn't taste that much better. Come on, man. It doesn't taste that much better.
90% of America doesn't know how to cook, so you have to go to a restaurant to actually get food.
Losers.
Yes, agreed.
They're losers. All right. Don't know how to cook. What's wrong with them? Huh?
No, I made up the stat.
You don't know how to cook? What's wrong with you, man? You don't know how to cook?
Well,
This guy knows how to cook. What are you talking about?
but when you go culinary school, you do know how to cook.
Okay, so again, I'm not saying that professionally cooked food doesn't taste better, but it doesn't that much better. It doesn't taste that much better. However, the restaurant wants you to leave the restaurant and they want you to feel that this food was awesome. Now, how could they enhance your feeling of the food being awesome? By doing exactly what the Gemara says over here, is by feeding you before they feed you the main course. They feed you certain things that get your stomach going, and then you actually appreciate the food more than if they didn't give it to you. Right? So they do that on purpose. And by the way, I'll tell you a trick also. If they don't give you an appetizer, I'll tell you a few good appetizers. A good appetizer is a beer, right? I love drinking. You drink a beer in the beginning of the meal before they bring you the food will taste that much better. Why? Because a beer also kind of like alcohol. Somehow it makes you hungrier. Right? You ever get drunk and then you eat like a nice meal after? It's like
Taco Bell.
ah.
That's Taco Bell. Massive.
Why Taco Bell serves alcohol?
No, they open like 3 in the morning. Everybody's
Everybody comes in drunk.
I grew up in Taco Bell.
So that's why it tastes so good, right? Yeah. People are wondering, Taco Bell's not kosher. How could you be there? So we had not everybody in the class was always a kosher eater over here, and so some people have been to Taco Bell's. Can I know how to?
From the age of 2 to like 10, I was fed Taco Bell almost every day.
Every day?
Almost every day.
Your mother didn't know how to cook?
She knew how to cook.
She just didn't want to.
She knew how to cook. I loved it.
She knew how to cook, she just didn't want to.
Oh, she did. She cooked.
Oh, she did cook. So why do you have to eat Taco Bell every day?
There's multiple meals a day.
Huh?
You can fit in a meal for Taco Bell.
Oh, you're saying she
Taco
cooked
Bell for lunch.
Taco Bell for lunch and dinner. Yeah. Anyways. Kenai Nahara. Let's continue. So, in other words, they basically prove over here that you should, if anything, you should be eating Pesach afternoon. You should be eating appetizing foods that will make you more hungry, because this way you will appreciate eating the matzah better. And there's a mitzvah, and your body should physically loathe that matzah. You should be stuffing that matzah in your mouth, mouth watering for matzah. You ever eat matzah before? Like,
the same rule as Shabbos.
what?
Are you allowed to eat food that's not bread?
First of all, Erev Shabbos, we said clearly that you could eat whenever you want. You could start your do whatever you want. We said there was an opinion that said you had problems, but we actually said you could do it whatever you want. All right? Good.
So you meal at 5 o'clock?
Huh?
You start a meal Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock?
According to halacha, yeah.
How is Rosh
Yeah.
able to say that we're only allowed to eat like tasty food?
He didn't say only tasty food. He's giving the reasoning why anything besides bread. He's saying anything besides bread. Correct. Well, first of all, it's not the Rashbam, it's the Gemara. The Gemara clearly saying that we have Rabbi Yossi that says, Rabbi Yossi says this is only, whatever we just mentioned is only in reference to bread and not to any other foods. All right?
Bread, not bread.
Huh?
Why did they not just start off and saying not bread instead of saying not eat anything, and then saying later on the above mentioned?
So first of all, that's a good question. Number one, it could be two different opinions. It could be that the first opinion that said don't eat anything meant don't eat anything, and Rabbi Yossi is coming and saying no, we could eat things, right? It could be. Rabbi Yossi, I think Rabbi Yossi is a Tana, no? I think he is a Tana. I think we quoted him before. Rabbi Yossi, I think he's a Tana, no? Could somebody check up for me? Rabbi Yossi is a Tana, I believe, no?
I believe so.
Check it up. Get your paper out. Let's double check. But I think he's a Tana. So it could be that he's actually arguing with the other person. In other words, we see over here that there's clearly an opinion that says you can eat anything but bread, etc. All right? Good. Rava, Habishasi Chamra, it says Rava would drink wine. Kulei Mali Yom Pesach. He would drink wine the entire day before Pesach. He used to drink wine. As I told you, what did I tell you? Oh, we have Grak. Grak, Harav Grak 2. Why is it Grak 2?
Grak 2.
Is it Grak or Grak 2?
Grak 2.
What's Grak 1?
It's retired.
Retired, okay. Grak 2 says, no, Rav Yossi. No, this is Rabbi Yossi. Here it says Rabbi Yossi.
Do you know where
What did you type? What did you type?
Was he in Bubble?
No, because you said Rav Yossi. Is Rabbi Yossi? No.
Rabbi, it's over here. Rabbi Yossi.
Huh?
No, that's not Yossi.
No, Rabbi Yossi. Yossi. Huh?
Rabbi Yossi Haglali?
Yeah. Well, there could be Rabbi Yossi Haglili. Here's Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta.
Oh, that's the one I was looking for. That's the main one.
Rabbi Yuli Loi.
These are all Tanaim.
Is there all Tanoim?
Yeah, and mine are on the other side.
Again, I think Rabbi Yossi is a Tana. I think he is a Tana. There's a Rabbi Yossi, but here's Rabbi Yossi.
Yeah, there's Rabbi Yossi.
Anyways, good question. Good question. We figured that we're not sure. I think it is.
Here, Rab Asi.
Rab Asi is a Tana, is a Moira.
Rabbi Yossi in the Mishnah is a Tana.
Oh, so Rabbi Yossi, there you
Whereas
go.
there's a different Rabbi Yossi known as Rav Yossi in the Babylonian Talmud or Rav Yossi in the Jerusalem Talmud.
Yeah.
Be a Mora.
Yeah, good. You see,
There's three of them,
Grok,
not Rabbi Yossi.
Grok too doesn't always give accurate information.
No, definitely not.
Right? You have to check. As a matter of fact, in this class, the first time somebody tried to mess with the how should I say it, the claimed superiority of AI. We asked a question here in class, and somebody looked up in the AI and they said, I'm wrong. And I said, excuse me, AI, you're wrong. And I told them why it's wrong. And the AI says, you're right, I'm wrong, and this is the truth.
I'm really, really sorry.
Yeah, he said I'm sorry. The AI said they're sorry for being wrong. All right? So let me tell you something. The AI is a very nice tool. Right? Somebody, when the AI came out, be like, oh, the AI, they're going to take over the whole world. Right? You know what I said?
Good.
No, the AI is just a very complicated and very complex and advanced calculator. That's all it really is. Right? If you have a calculator, you have a calculator that says 1 + 1 = 2. That's pretty much what the AI does. It just has much more complex formulas to calculate with. That's it. That's all it is. Huh? Okay, you can do it that way if you want. Okay. Anyways, sorry. Let's get back to what it was here. Okay. So Rava used to drink wine the entire day before Pesach. He drank wine specifically in order to draw his appetite, that he should really want to eat matzah with tremendous pleasure at night, and therefore he would drink wine the whole afternoon. Yeah. Oh, so now you have a good question. And by the way, I think halachically they say not to drink wine the day before Pesach for that reason, because you also have the mitzvah of the 4 cups, which is a rabbinical mitzvah. Again, it's a rabbinical, it's not even a rabbinical command. It's more like a custom that we have not to drink wine. Good question. It's a good question. But he felt that by drinking a lot of wine, the afternoon before the Seder, he would appreciate eating the matzah more. Right? By the way, I want to point out something very interesting. You're seeing over here a very important thing in Judaism. A lot of people, they look at halacha. Somebody asked me to read, because they asked me to read Isaiah 53. So let me tell you something. Somebody once started quoting me Isaiah 53. Isaiah 53, I say it's very nice, but what does it say in Isaiah 52? And the guy turned white. He had no idea. He couldn't say anything. Isaiah 53 says, okay, and what does Isaiah 52 say? They want to make as if they want to show off as if they know everything. They know. They read the prophets. They read the 2 verses that some preacher told them to read, and they read those 2 verses. Read the rest of the Bible and then come back to me and we could have a discussion. That's it. That's my answer to them. Right? And you should know Isaiah 52 and Isaiah 51 and Isaiah 50 and all the ones, all the way from the beginning of Isaiah all the way to the end. Then before Isaiah wasn't the first prophet. There was many prophets before.
No, it's like CNN, they cut out the
Exactly, CNN. I'm telling you, some of the Christian missionaries are just like CNN. They're CNN probably learned from them. I'm serious.
Cut out the part that disagrees with you.
Yeah.
You quote a little
No,
part
you
that-
quote them. You twist the quote to make as if that you have a point, right? Shkoyach. Anyways, sorry to all the Christians out there for my horrible offense to the and your entire existence. I'm sorry. Anyways, what could you do? Yeah. By the way, I tried this trick on a few missionaries. No one ever was able to do it. Right? Not quoting me word for word. Like, I know the prophet's word for word. I'm like, okay, very good. You just quoted me word for word Isaiah 53. I want you to quote for me Isaiah 52. Right? So now they're going to learn 52. Then I'm going to go to 54. Then they go, before you know that, that learn the whole Tanakh. And then they could come back and try to, yeah.
Well, Isaiah 52 starts off saying how the uncircumcised will never enter Yerushalayim.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's already kind of like.
Yeah.
starts off
You,
just
you,
like,
you look
no.
at. Did you just look at Isaiah 52?
Yeah.
You just look at it. The uncircumcised will never enter Jerusalem. Okay, Christians, you want to enter Jerusalem? Start chopping. That's it. That's it.
Oh, is that the whole thing that they
Huh?
told quote for Yeshua?
Yeah. Anyways, good. Anyways, we're not getting into this garbage. Zell.
Well, it's not with the garbage.
Huh?
Their interpretation is garbage.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyways,
I don't want anyone to.
good. Weitergegangen. Where are we up to? We're up to. Let's continue. I wanted to point out something philosophical that got disturbed because this guy went because somebody wrote Isaiah 53 something. Got whatever. Right? Don't get so nervous just because somebody writes something in my computer. By the way, anything you write on your computer comes up on me over here, and then this guy, if you don't like what he says, he'll go ugh. Okay?
I'll growl in your
He'll
direction.
growl. Okay? But by the way, if it's relevant to the class, we will mention it as we did already today a few times where somebody mentioned something that I think was relevant to the class. And sometimes by accident, when this guy goes chuch puch, I sometimes mention it even if it's not relevant to the class. All right? Good. Where are we? Oh. The purpose of the creation of this world, essentially, as we learn in Chassidus, is to have what's called the dira b'tachtonim, which means for God to come down in this world and be unified with this world in this deepest reality possible. Okay? Now, part of this is God gave us commands. Now, part of the commands that God gave us is to, not only does he give us a command, it's not God doesn't give us a command because he decided he needs to boss around these little human puppets of his. That's not why he gave us the commands. The commands, by the way, are number one for our benefit, right? Part of our benefit is to appreciate and enjoy. Our physical bodies should appreciate and enjoy God's direction. And therefore, as you see here in the Talmud, there were people that would do things specifically so that they can physically enjoy God's commands as much as possible. For example, on a Pesach evening, we're commanded in the Torah, it says to eat matzah. Right, Mr. Christian over there, Isaiah 53, did you eat the matzah? Did you even know about the matzah? It says it in the Old Testament to eat the matzah. You ate the matzah, you probably didn't eat the matzah. They probably didn't need to know about eating the matzah. Instead, they're going in eggs and putting out eggs in the field, I don't know, looking for them. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know who said eggs? Where does eggs come from? You saw eggs in the Bible somewhere? I didn't ever saw eggs. Collecting eggs is in the Bible. Is there? It's there? Yeah.
Because the Gentiles celebrate Easter, that's why.
Yeah, I know they celebrate Easter. I don't think I'm stupid. I know that they celebrate Easter, but where in the Bible does it say about collecting eggs in your backyard? No, Avi, does it say about collecting eggs in your backyard in the Old Testament or even the Christians? They call the New Testament. Does it say anything about collecting eggs in your backyard? No, it doesn't. What does it say? It says to eat matzah on Pesach. How many of these people eating matzah on the Pesach? They're not. You know why? Because they don't give a hoot about what it says in the Bible. All they want to do is whatever's fun, whatever's popular, that's what they want. So, right? Popular is scream, blah, 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 blah. It's popular, it's fun, and that's what they want to do. That's all they care about. They care about their own feelings. They don't care about what God really wants. However, the rabbis in the Talmud, they would say, what does God really want? He tells us what he wants. He tells us to eat the matzah on Pesach. Now, if he tells us to eat the matzah on Pesach, I want to enjoy it the best as possible. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to eat foods that appetize and make me super, super hungry. And therefore, when I eat the matzah, my physical body will love and enjoy this connection with God that God has given us through eating the matzah. And that is the best way to fulfill the commandment of eating matzah when you are loving the mitzvah, right? Yeah, good. Yeah. So that was Rava. Rava would drink wine in order for this. Amar Rava, Rava says, now Rava tells you, how can I prove that wine actually makes you super appetized and you really want to eat after drinking wine? How do I know this? The Tanan, as it says in a Mishnah, Bein hakoisis halalu, between the cups, which means you have 4 cups of wine you're meant to drink. Between the 4 cups, imrasa lishta is ishta. You could drink if you want between the cups. However, bein shlishi to revi, between the 3rd cup and the 4th cup, lo yishta, you shouldn't drink. Yeah. Now says Rava, the amrat misad seid. If you would think that wine, in fact, fulfills your desire for eating, amay yishta, why should you be able to drink between the cups? You're going to end up eating the matzah on a full stomach, and you're not allowed to. Right? It says drink as much wine as you want between the 1st cup and the 2nd cup, and between the 2nd cup and the 3rd cup. However, you're meant to eat matzah at that time, and if you drink too much wine and wine fills you up, then we wouldn't allow you to drink as much wine as you want. Therefore, says Rava, it's a proof that wine does not fill you up, but in the contrary, it actually draws your appetite more. The more wine you drink, the more you will want to eat. And as this is interesting that we learned this in the Gemara, because I just said this earlier about, you start a meal, you drink a nice beer at the beginning of the meal, or even a cup of wine at the beginning of your meal, you will love it even more. And by the way, you make a kiddush. People come to my house on Friday night, and I always encourage everybody to make kiddush. So people are like, you make kiddush for me, Rabbi. You make kiddush, I'll answer amen, b'zel. Right? Good. But I say, no, you should make your own kiddush. Why? Because of this reason. You make your own kiddush, you start the meal with a nice cup of wine. You're going to appreciate eating more when you drink a cup of wine at the beginning of the meal. Also, you get a little tipsy, so you can open up a little bit and have a good, healthy conversation. What's so funny? It's funny. It's true. It's true. Drinking. Why do you think the Hasidim, we say l'chaim? Yeah? There you go. We say l'chaim, we say zeh, and because it opens you up. Alcohol, even though alcohol could potentially have bad, how should I say it? Bad effects on a person, but that is only if you don't do it properly, right? As they say, drink responsibly. Yeah, so drinking responsibly means that if you drink a certain amount, it'll actually help you open yourself up to spiritual development, right? Up until a certain amount. And once you pass that certain amount, then it could become detrimental to your health. It can be detrimental to a lot of things. So drinking alcohol is actually very good for a person. As a matter of fact, some doctors say you should drink a cup of wine every single day to prevent the heart disease, right? Red wine specifically. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't drink red wine every day, but usually Friday night I drink a whole cup of red wine. And thank God I didn't have a heart attack yet. Baruch Hashem. Hopefully I won't have a heart attack. But yeah, there is some advantage even to alcohol in your body at the right amounts. Yeah. Huh?
It comes with the Rambam, right?
What?
Drink a cup of wine every day?
I don't think the Rambam says to drink a cup of wine every day, but I know some doctors say to do that. Yeah. Anyways, that is the end, I believe. Did we finish? That's it. So yes, so that's the end. Therefore, it teaches you that it is drawing your appetite. So that is the end of this week's quota. We actually had a few different parts of this week's quota. I want to do a quick summary on what we learned this week in the Gemara. We started on page 107A by Tanu Rabbanon. We continued about whether you could make kiddush or other blessings on wine. We basically determined that, of course, you make a blessing on every drink, but if you're going to bless birchat hamazon or something special, holy, you have to use wine. And then we also discussed how much wine you have to be. There was one opinion that says you could drink as much as you want. The other one says no, you have to have a mouthful of wine in order to be Yoitze. We had a bit of an argument. We're not sure exactly who said it. Rab Gidol Bar Menashe, Rab Gidol Bar Manyumi, etc. Then we went into the next argument, or the next analysis we had is our Mishnah said that the prohibition of eating the day before Pesach begins by Mincha. We're not sure what Mincha it is, Mincha Ketana or Mincha Gedoyla, right? As a matter of fact, just as a side point, there's a Tosfos here. The last Tosfos on page 107A. It actually speaks about why is it called Mincha? Why is the afternoon service called Mincha? What does Mincha have to do with the afternoon service? What does Mincha mean? Mincha means a gift. Yeah. Yeah. Mincha is a gift. Are you giving a gift to Hashem? You give a mincha. So why do we call the afternoon? Why do we call the afternoon prayer mincha? Does anybody know here?
We're giving in carbonot.
What's that?
It's a surrogate for the carbonot and the ketoris.
So
After the mincha offering, the gift.
there are various different reasons that it gives over here in Tosfos. Some people say, well, in the service that they brought in the temple, they would bring an animal sacrifice and then they would bring a mincha sacrifice. The mincha sacrifice was a gift of flour mixed with some oil, and they used to bring this on the altar called the mincha sacrifice. Now, the Tosfos says that Elijah the prophet, when he had a famous time where he prayed to God that God should accept his sacrifice by sending a fire from heaven and lighting it, he said this during mincha time. His prayer was during mincha time, and it says that the God listened to him not when he brought the animal sacrifice, but only when he brought the mincha sacrifice. So the Tosfos says perhaps from then on they called this the mincha service because it was when they offered the mincha sacrifice that Elijah the prophet was answered. All right, good. Yeah, can I know?
Man, they're rabid today.
Good. Anything interesting here?
Curse Goyim on stream.
Who? What? Who said that? Somebody asked that.
I'm asking.
And you want to curse the goyim? They're already cursed, especially if they're on our stream driving us crazy. They're already cursed. We don't need to do it for them, right? It's actually the curse itself is that somebody can be arguing a lie and thinking it's the truth. That itself is a curse that unfortunately some people have.
Adding words to the code, someone actually says.
Don't worry what it says. Don't worry. Anyways, not interesting what it says. It will tell you what it says, what it doesn't say. Of course, they're going to add words. They're going to take out words. They're going to pick which words they want to say.
So
Right.
talking about
You rock from the inside out.
What's that? Yeah. Yeah. The eggs, yeah.
So supposedly Easter is not even a Christian holiday, it's a pagan holiday.
Pagan.
Right. So there are roots in the pagan, right? There's a roots in the pagan world where they used to do something similar with an egg. Right. The point is that most of the way that Christianity is followed, actually practiced today, has nothing to do with the Bible. Right. As a matter of fact, the only reason why they bring the Bible to the Jews is because they know that the Jews follow the Bible, so they try to use that to bring them out. Meaning they try to. It's like a bait. They try to bait us with biblical verses to then leave the biblical way of living. Right. Because they're like, oh, well, because it is, you should join us. Well, what are you doing? Nothing. You're not doing anything from the Bible. What are you talking about? Right? So why should we leave the Bible and join you when you're trying to prove through the Bible that we should do that? Shame, shugin. Huh? Doesn't make a difference what they're worshiping or not. Ultimately, they're people who are unfortunately so cursed that they're passionately serving the evil side, and they don't even realize it. Anyways, so what? Somebody asked a question over here. What's this one over here? Oh, no, up there. This one. No, not that one. Oh, this one. Rabbi, I'm just curious if the Israelis have been TV show.
The TV show, as it is a more Jewish presentation of. I don't know what TV show he's talking about.
I don't know what TV show. I don't know why.
Oh,
I don't get how we talk about the Gemara, and some people all of a sudden.
Well, that's because that's what they do. It doesn't
That's all
matter
they do.
what the topic is. They come and they say, Isaiah 53. And then they all say the same things over and over again. That's because
They don't have anything else to say. They don't know what
There's
Isaiah
nothing else
52
there's nothing
or
else to
Isaiah
say.
51. They don't know
you're
anything.
just as bad as
They
the
only-
Muslims. You just pick one book. You're just going by Revelation. The Muslims go by their.
Anyways,
their
whatever
book.
it is, that's it. We got you got Yaakov David fired up over here against the Christians. Anyways, put it this way: as I tell a lot of people, the fact is that even the Christians, their earliest recordings of what actually happened with this Jew that they worship is from many, many years later. So you don't even know if they're accurate. So they're going to take Isaiah. They're going to take Isaiah 53 and they're going to say, oh, it's saying this about somebody. And then they're going to say, well, this is what happened to him. I'm like, how the heck do you know that actually happened to him? The first recordings you have from him are hundreds of years later. You have no idea if that actually happened to him, right? As a matter of fact, the people who recorded it, who, by the way, could have been Jewish, some of them were Jewish, they recorded it in a way that would sound how should I say it? Enticing to Jews, because they were Jews and they wanted other Jews to join them. So they wrote the story in a way that would make as if that he actually fulfilled these prophets. Now, even then, they didn't write the story good enough because even according to their story, it doesn't match up. But I'm saying even if it does match up, it's they wrote it that way to begin with, and not necessarily these things actually happen. Right? The whole Christian history is one big question mark. What exactly happened? Even according to them, if you read some of their books have tremendous contradictions in what the actual story is, and by the way, when the story actually happened. They're not sure when it happened and what happened. So you don't know what happened, you don't know when it happened. So don't come to me and tell me that he did something that says in Isaiah 53 when you don't know when it happened and you don't know exactly what happened, but you're saying it happened. Something happened, but you don't know where, you don't know when, you don't know how, but it happened. And then you want me to answer you how it really didn't happen.
Yeah.
Go jump in the lake, fife and yam, zell.
Rabbi, here where Tosfos is saying, he's talking about the
Yeah.
Gripa says,
Yeah.
Hashmanai haya velo dak. He's like, he's not thin.
No, the veloy dak, no. No, veloy dak means he's trying to say that Rashbam was not particular. Dak is like meaning
Dak was thin. Like
it did, but meaning like when you
It's
like
diuk?
pay, yeah, it's from the same word as diuk, which comes from the word thin, which means that you pay, basically means you pay attention to details. You pay attention to every little detail.
So he's just saying he's not being precise.
He's not being precise. He wasn't precise in that statement. Anyways, that's it. I think we finished, etc. Those of you who want to argue on this Christian thing could stay on this thing and just continue chatting about it. It'll bring up my rank on YouTube. I'll get a higher rank, and then other people that are actually interested in the class will join. So continue doing that, Bezrat Hashem. For those of you who are not yet part of the our WhatsApp group, should join it immediately. They could, because I don't let any. The second I went on and I see some of the crowd that we get, I blocked. Only admin could give messages, but we can tell you when there is a class, when it's starting. You could go on. There's a QR code we just put up over here. If you do the QR code, you could join our WhatsApp group. And Bezrat Hashem, you will be notified. We would also give out some of the worksheets, etc. And all these other people in the chat, you can do me a favor, just continue yelling, because then my link will go up on YouTube, because you'll stay up, you stay on the video. So you can continue yelling at each other.
More garbage clothes.
Because it's all they're interested in. They're interested in just like, it's called what I call emotional barfing. Vomiting, emotional vomiting. They vomit emotionally. They have so much emotions in them. Right? Good. Can I know it?